We have, welcome to the Employees Retirement System Board meeting, October 21st, 2020. It's 12 o'clock. We're going to be doing an electronic remote participation meeting via GoTo meeting. And roll call, we have Chairman Calise is here, Trustee Miller, Trustee Hamilton, Trustee Gordon, Trustee Bovensep, and Trustee Malzik are all here. And do I have a motion to excuse just Trustee Novak?
So moved, Mark Miller.
Seconded.
Okay. Lori, do I have to do a roll call?
Yes, that is one of the things, and Mr. Chair, I should alert you to this as well. With the electronic meetings, it does require a reading of the roll call, and each person has to give their vote. So it's a little procedurally difficult, but ask that you do that for the electronic meeting.
Okay. Chairman Calise.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hamilton.
Yes.
Trustee Gordon.
Yes.
Trustee Bovensep.
Yes.
And Trustee Malzik, yes. So the item passes 6-0. All right, next item. And in your agenda packet was 2 resolutions so that we could meet in person. So we can meet electronically. And I would like to have someone move it as printed in the agenda.
I move to approve the resolution as printed in the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Calise.
Yes.
And another vote. So Trustee Miller,
Yes.
Trustee Calise, or Chairman Calise.
Yes.
Trustee Hamilton,
Yes.
Trustee Gordon,
Yes.
Trustee Bovensep,
Yes.
Trustee Malzik, yes. Item passes 6-0. On to public comment. And Shazi, as you told me earlier, there is no public comment, right?
Yeah, no public comment.
No public comment. And there was 2 ways for people to reach us, and that was via email and also via voicemail. Okay, minutes from the August 12, 2020 meeting. They were resent out because when we reviewed them, Chairman Calise had an adjustment to them. So would anyone like to move them as restated today, as we sent them out today?
So moved.
I'll move that the minute. I'll support.
Okay. Moved by the chairman and supported by Trustee Bovensep. Any discussion? All right. So let's see. Chairman Calise.
Yes.
Trustee Bovensep.
Yes.
Trustee Gordon.
Yes.
Trustee Hamilton.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And Trustee Malzik, yes. Item passes 6-0. Moving on to retirement requests. Lisa, anything to note of these 3? Anything special that you want to mention to the board?
Nope. I think we're okay.
Okay. So can I have a motion on these 3 retirements?
To make a motion to support all 3 retirement requests as written.
Second, Mark Miller.
Okay. Motion by Gordon, seconded by Miller. Any discussion? Trustee Hamilton.
Just wanted to mention Mr. Reynolds and all my thoughts and prayers to his friends and family and colleagues. I know it's been very sad for our city, his untimely death, and I know his memorial service is in a few weeks. And just wanted to give all my best to his friends and family for his sacrifice for our community.
Thank you for that. Okay, on the vote then, Trustee Gordon,
Yes.
Trustee Miller,
Yes.
Chairman Calise,
Yes.
Trustee Hamilton,
Yes.
Trustee Bovensep,
Yes.
Trustee Melvick? Yes, passes 6-0. All right, moving on to regular business. As you guys are aware, our board is in charge of both the defined benefit plan and the defined contribution plan. So I'm trying to make a concerted effort to give the DC plan the time that it is awarded, so it doesn't get pushed out, let's say, by the DB plan. So today we have Ray Fortin from ICMA and Rolla Ismail from ICMA. You guys may know Rolla because she's active in dealing with the participants in the plan. And Ray is new to the ICMA organization, so I want to say welcome to Ray. And you have a presentation that you want to give to us, right? And we received that. It's in your guys' packet, everyone's packet. But I think, Dave, I believe you're going to, from IT, I think you're going to put that up to the screen. And
Yeah,
Ray, go ahead, you
Yeah.
can get started.
Yeah, well, thank you, Rob. There's three separate files that we sent over, and if we could start with the one titled City of Troy, it's dated October 14th, because as you know, we postponed the meeting by a week. So it'd be the City of Troy. There we go. No, that's a different presentation there.
Oh, that one. Is it this one?
No, it'd be City of Troy, October. There's a date on it. It says October 14th. It's a PDF.
It is, oh, it's not that one, right? Okay.
No.
That was-
It's titled simply City of Troy, October 14th, 2020. And I don't see it listed there. There was three that I sent over. I could share my screen if that's all right, but if I don't know if I'm allowed to do that.
It's page 44. Go back to the one you have. No. The first one, Dave, that you had.
Oh, this one.
Yep.
No. Oh, there it is. Somehow they got combined, it looks like.
Yeah, we combined all three of them.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. So then we're going to be bouncing around this one. My apologies. I'm not sure what page numbers we're going to be going to or not. But Rob, thank you for the introduction. So if you go to the next page on this, there you go. As Rob said, I'm new to the Troy relationship. I'm new to ICMA. Ray Fortin. Just a quick brief introduction of myself. I've been in the retirement plan, qualified plan world for 25 years, born and raised in Michigan. Prior to joining ICMA RC, I was with a local consulting firm who I think you're familiar with, Greystone Consulting, for 9 years. So I bring a little different perspective to my role in ICMA with the consultant hat. And also I was a citizen rep for the City of Centerline Police and Fire Pension Board for about 20 years. So I sat on your side of the table as well. So I think those two experiences bring me a little different perspective in the role that I have here today. This is the agenda that Rolla and I put together for you. We're going to keep it succinct and brief. You can see we're going to talk a little bit about the education activities that have been going on pre and post COVID and what we've been doing with the employees. We're going to give an investment review, and if time permits, we can give you some updates on some data points, some plan analytics and trends that we see in the plan. But I'll defer to Rob on that as we get to that point and see where we're at. But more importantly, we want to talk about your employees and what we're doing to help them save for retirement, and give you an investment review on the current funds that are in the plan. So with that, if you could go to the next page, please, and I'm going to hand it off to Rolla, who's going to take over for the next couple minutes to talk about this subject. Rolla?
Thank you so much, Ray. And thank you, everybody, for allowing us to join you today. Thank you, Rob, for inviting us. And first of all, these are difficult times. So my condolence to your loved colleague who passed away, and also for anybody who's struggling with COVID or with these terrible times. What we have done and what I have done, and with the backup of my company, is stepping up the plate. We want to make sure all participants, if they have any questions regarding their accounts, if they have any questions regarding their situation, they want to take a withdrawal or a hardship, or they just review the investments with these unstable times in the market. We stepped up the plate big time. Thank you, Lisa, and your team. We are sending a lot of meeting notices and links for people to sign up, and the proof is in the pudding. You see a lot of emails coming back with people enrolling, or somebody wants to change contribution or something like that. This slide kind of summarizes the activity, but it's ongoing. So total, I had 294 consultation, meaning either sitting down with a person, like the 161 on-site in-person meetings, or 133 phone or virtual. That means either they were on the phone, or I actually shared my screen, and it was as if I'm meeting with them, face to face. They're looking at their screen, my screen, and going through the review and implementing whatever changes they would want to. Group presentations starting mid-July. I'm doing it on a weekly basis almost, and that are seminars that I provide on different retirement topics. And in addition to that, the CFPs, and Ray would be discussing it more in details, are doing ongoing financial webinars as well. And professional money management team have always also stepped up, and they're doing webinars once a month. And we actually had one yesterday that was specifically targeted to your participants and the city of Sterling Heights and the city of Florence. They're all in a same, logistic. And it was a great success. We had 23 people on the line attending, and we only started the invitation, a week and 1 day. So people are engaged, and please let us know how we can do. We have capped everything together and wrapped it in a nice, easy way for your participants by customizing a new web page for the city of Troy, where someone can go through one link. They can see, if you want to enroll, this is what you can do. If you want to see different topics, these are the different topics. You want to meet with Rolla, click here. I have my contact information. You want to meet with a CFP. We have a huge department now. Anybody can talk to a CFP. It's not an asset limitation. There's no asset limitations there. And also professional money management webinar. Ray will show you in depth about how the website will look like. But we're excited with all of these innovations and stepping up to the plate, but also would like your feedback. What are you hearing? If you would like something different, what can we do better? We always try to do a good job, and we take care, of the relationship here with the city of Troy. We value a lot your relationship and putting the trust of the retirement of your participants with us. So I'll hand it over to Ray to discuss more about the customized website that's coming your way.
Thank you, Rolla.
Thank you.
Could you go one page more, please? So here's an overview of the recent educational activity that Rolla just mentioned, the different topics, different subject matter that she had seminars on it or services on it. I believe all of you were invited to the Retirement Guided Pathways Managed Accounts seminar that Rolla hosted yesterday.
Attend. There was about 40 people that responded positively to that virtual webinar that Rolla had, and so that was of great success. And then you can see some of the additional scheduled CFP webinars that are coming up and some of the other things. We wanted just to highlight this to let you know that although times have changed and meeting structures have changed, as is evident by what we're doing here today, we're still out in front of your employees, your participants, and trying to get them to do the right things and give them the appropriate information and education to make the right decisions and save for their retirement. Rolla mentioned...
Hey, Ryan.
Yes.
Do you guys have any stats that would say how our Troy employees compare to, let's say, your other places, like, you know, wherever you're at, Southfield, Warren, Sterling Heights, how we compare to taking advantage of the educational opportunities versus some of our peer cities?
Rolla, I'll defer to you on that because you're in the front lines with that and can answer that.
Well, I see there is a response equitable to the responses of the cities around you. Meaning like Warren, Sterling Heights, because I see my schedule fill up, and I know who I'm talking to, and many people reach out either by directly emailing me or calling me directly, like skipping the sign up link altogether. But the litmus test of how education is working is by looking at the total contributions, total asset allocation, if it's still diversified, the whole, how much people are withdrawing or requesting even to withdraw, like under the CARES Act. My understanding, you haven't yet adopted it. And many people come to me and they ask me about it, and we go over different options. And basically your retirement plan, when it's gone, it's gone. So they see other sources of how they can fulfill the hardship, and you're seeing it from your end as well. So when Ray will look at the visual analytics, you will see your plan, how it's working when it's doing well, and as long as it's in the, people are keeping the money, people are diversified, people are maintaining the contribution level. That's the ultimate litmus test of the educational efforts, and that it is coming through to your participants.
And Rob, I'd agree with what Rolla's statements are. I think you raise a good point, and I think I will definitely take this back to our management. Is there a way to get benchmarking of local municipalities versus other ones to compare what they're doing versus what you're doing? We don't have specific data points like that, but as Rolla mentioned, some of the analytic information that I'll go through at the end, if I have an opportunity, will show you what exactly your team and your employees are doing. The other thing Rolla mentioned was about the customized web page we developed for the City of Troy. Now, we just got this finally approved and out of the draft production and ready to be put out on the website yesterday. So you don't have a copy of that. I apologize. We just got it yesterday. So I will forward that on to Rob, you, and Lisa, so you can distribute it to everybody here on this call so they can get a pre-look at that and what it's going to be. If we want to have a separate call to go through that, I'm happy to do that. But we're happy to provide this customized website. It's got the look and feel of the City of Troy and its logo, and it has hyperlinks on the website to connect to different sections within our systems for record keeping, for enrollments, for investment information, for signing up for education services from Rolla and her team. So we're excited to deliver that to you guys. If you would flip one more page, please. This is the last topic on the educational side I wanted to mention. We're expanding our Guided Pathways services. What's Guided Pathways services? That's our CFP work. what we've learned through the pandemic and working virtual, and we actually had this in mind before the pandemic hit in April, May. We were working on this prior to that, but what we've learned from this is obviously meeting with employees in person on a going forward basis is up in the air at this point. We've expanded our CFP services to participants, where before you were working with Nancy Lang, our CFP here, and that's all that you had. Well, we've expanded that across the board for all our clients, and we've opened up. We have over 20 CFPs across the country. So you and your employees are able to go out and set up an appointment to meet with the CFP if you wanted a full financial plan, get on their calendars to review your information, view your retirement, are you on track, what you need to do on your own terms. You can set your own schedule. You can include your spouse or significant other in these meetings. It can be different times of days. It can be in the evenings. It can be in the mornings. It can be whatever works for you. But what we're excited to roll this out. And as I mentioned on the new customized website, there's a link there to go out with the schedule that's open with all kinds of availability out there for your employees to engage with our CFPs and the services they have to offer.
Hey,
Any
Ray,
question?
Ray, I have a question about that. So I know currently we have Nancy Lang as our CFP, and I know people get a personal relationship with her. Is that, can you request that certain CFP in this new program, or do you know?
So the way the schedule works, Rob, there are the CFPs are listed there, their names and their availability. So if there's a CFP that an individual has become accustomed to or comfortable with, and they want to work with that person, they can reach out to that individual. They just have to find something that's available for them. But we've found that there's that hasn't been a hindrance with other clients that have moved to this. You're not going to have to tell your story over and over again if you work with somebody different, because everything is updated in our system and input live there. So you don't have to keep repeating yourself on if you're working with Nancy one day and somebody else another day.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may add, employers, if they request a CFP on-site visit, it can be delivered, yes. So it's not like out of the option, it's not unavailable. You request a one-on-one or face-to-face group meetings from a CFP, Nancy can come or somebody else. And also, if it's written in the contract, if you would like on-site CFP visits, it's also will happen. So it's up to you. You're the client. But the new way that we've seen, instead of a CFP driving for like 200 miles and maybe meeting with 2-3 people, this way it's efficient. It's able to reach more people at their own time. Maybe they cannot meet with the CFP on site during working hours. So that's why the whole program came about, to give more, reach out to everybody and be inclusive and efficient in their timing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, please.
Yes.
Is there a fee for the CFP services?
There is no fee for the CFP services.
Thank you.
We would love for people to take advantage of this. I think that's one of the things that sets our organization apart from a lot of other organizations that do what we do. A lot of people talk about providing this education to employees. We really put forth the effort and provide these services, what Roll is doing, what the CFPs are doing, and it's all part and parcel of our overall product offering to you. So we wish more people would take advantage of it.
Yeah, and one thing I may add, the link that you will see on the customized website, anybody can sign up for a meeting with a CFP. There's no minimums, there's no asset requirements anymore. If you have a situation that requires a CFP consultation, you can do that now. And there are different levels of CFPs depending on the the asset level. If somebody is, over 500,000, CFPs will be reaching out to them, letting them know this is what we have. Do you have any questions? Do you like to initiate a financial plan? So that's also a plus of how the program used to work before.
Thank you. Hey, Ray, about 10 minutes left.
Okay, so we're going to speed it up here. So if we could go, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure what page it's going to be in this document, but it's the investment review section. I think it was the section before we got to this this area here. It was the first report that you went to that you thought was ours.
Okay, go to page 10.
So, yep, here's the start of it. And I'm not going to really get into the economic and market update. I know you have these meetings all the time with your consultants on the DB side, and so there's no sense in me regurgitating what's going on from a market economic perspective for you again. I will say just some brief comments. I mean, there's three key concerns that keep the market that's been in a tight trading range here since returning to its mid-highs that we last seen before the pandemic. The S&P 500 benchmark has bounced between 3,100 and a high of 3,500, almost 3,600. It hit in early September. Really, those three things that are keeping it in its tight trading range are uncertainties about the trajectory of the pandemic. We've got the election, obviously, here in now less than 2 weeks. We've got the timing and size of any CARES 2.0, if you want to call it that, physical stimulus, what's going on there. And a big thing are signs of another wave of COVID-19 infections. So it's really these uncertainties that have kept the equity markets trading in this tight range, and we're waiting on things to happen regarding COVID or the stimulus and or the election for it to either to break out of this tight trading range. So with that, if you could,
go to page 14. Sorry, Ray.
That's okay.
Is that where you want to go?
Well, actually, I was going to skip this in the interest of time. This is just about our investment division and the team that makes up the investment division. These are the people and the resources that are there behind it. I was going to actually start on page 19. That's the process and things of that nature. So one more page, please. Thank you. So your active Vantage points and VT funds. You can see the number of funds that fall within each category here. The VT funds are funds that pass directly through. They're a single underlying investment option that are made up for choices for your individuals to select fund from. There's 17 of those. The Vantage Point funds are next in line. These are combined. These are sub-advised funds, so you could have multi-managers that make up a certain mandate fit within a certain style box, be it large cap growth, small cap value, things of that nature. But you have a multi-manager sub-advised approach there. Then you've got 4 Vantage Point model portfolios. These are risk-based models that are made up of equities and fixed income with set allocations that have different risk parameters from conservative to aggressive, and then in between, kind of the one-stop shop for individuals that want to select those. And then finally, you've got the Vantage Point Milestone funds, which are the target date investment options. Based upon your age, an individual would select these based upon their date of birth and their expected retirement date. So based on that, they could be very conservative if your retirement is in the very near future, to more aggressive if you're looking out into the future, saying you're going to retire in 2050, 2055, 2060, things of that nature. Next page, please. Here's an overall asset allocation of the plans that are with us. You've got the 457 and the 401A plan, and on the smaller end, you got the retirement health savings account there. You can see the dollars that make up those. The lion's share of the money, 457 plan, a little just shy of $43 million in the 457, and then a little over $98 million in the 401A plan. And then you can see the breakup of the various asset classes, the asset allocation breakup by those Vantage point funds that we just kind of talked about within each plan there. Next page, please. Some recent changes to the funds. You can read these. Target date funds, we rolled forward. We added the 2060 target date fund. For those new young employees that are coming on board that meet the criteria for investing in that fund. The target date glide path asset allocation has been modified. You can see we moderately increased the allocation to emerging market equities versus developed markets, and we're favoring U.S. mid-cap equities versus U.S. large caps and small caps there. So slight changes there. Target date fund allocation window was expanded to 10%. The target date funds expanded to include actively fixed income and ETFs in fixed income. Before, it was mainly a passive index strategy for those for the fixed income allocation in the target funds. Now we've added active fixed income and ETFs into that structure. Under the Vantage Points Equity Income Fund, we removed one of the sub-advisors, State Street Global Advisors, there. And then lastly, the Vantage, the VT Clearbridge International Value Fund, we removed that and mapped the assets to the VT Diversified International Fund. That's a Fidelity fund because of underperformance with the Clearbridge International Value Fund. So these things are done automatically based upon how we our due diligence and our review within our the service level that we have for monitoring all these investment options. Next page, please. So here's a snapshot of the strong performers, the investment options that are in the plan for you that really stand out. You got the Vantage Point Discovery Fund and the Select Value Fund. You can see the performance of those numbers there. Obviously, we've got absolute returns versus relative returns there, depending on the style and strategy. For instance, you've got the Vantage Point Discovery Fund, which had a negative 9.9% return, but its peer ranking was in the top 31%. It had an excess return over its competitors of over 1.21%. So obviously, a negative return is not something we want, but based on the style and strategy of that particular fund, it still outperformed its peer groups and its benchmark and indices. Same thing can be said for the Vantage Point Select Value Fund. As I think you probably know from your discussions with your other consultants, growth has outperformed value for some time now. We're going on multiple years of growth outperforming value. Large cap has outperformed small cap, and obviously United States or domestic equities have outperformed international, and you kind of see that in the performance of the funds on a going forward basis. Next page, please. Here's some of the poor performers of the investment lineup in the options. You've got the Emerging Markets Fund and the Equity Income Fund. The only comments I'll make on these is from a poor performers perspective, they're not that bad because you can see their peer rankings 2020 and 2019 for each one of the investment options, and they range anywhere from the 48th percentile to the 65th percentile. So we're not talking 90th percentile in terms of poor rankings. We're talking kind of middle of the road. So I'm encouraged by the fact that the poor performers aren't performing that bad when you compare it to the competition. Next page, please, or if you go to page 25. Page 25 on is the actual quarterly performance as of September 30th for each of the investment options. That top one there, your stable value fund, the Vantage Point Plus fund, is one of the top performing stable value funds in the marketplace. You've got just shy of $20 million in this particular investment option, or it represents about 13% of the assets of the two plans, and you can see how this stable value fund has performed for those that are invested in it. Year to date, 1.58% on a 1 year basis, just over 2% rate of return on a stable value fixed income, most conservative fund in your lineup that you have, and you were getting a little over 2%. So for those individuals close to retirement, in retirement, that want a very conservative investment option, this is the place to be.
Question, please.
Yes, sir.
I see on the Vantage Plus, it was established in 2013, and you have a 10-year track record. That doesn't quite compute. How?
I agree. So this is the share class that you're using was established in 2013. There's other share classes that manage the same style and strategy identically. So we're able to use the performance of the longer term share classes that give us, the 10-year number.
Okay, and you are satisfied with that return?
For this style and strategy of an investment option, yes, we most certainly are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Ray.
Yes.
Ray, we're going to have to wrap it up. I guess I'll just ask if anyone else has questions from the board that would like to ask you or Rolla before we wrap it up. Okay, seeing it none. Ray, would you like to conclude at all? Or
I would like to conclude. Rob, we appreciate the time that you've gave us today. We look forward to future meetings. And the only thing I'll say is for those of you that are interested, from this page going back, there's pages for all the other investment options in the plan and their respective performance. I will say relative performance versus peer marks and indices were very strong for this third quarter and for the outgoing year to date in the 1 year numbers. So I think you should be happy with the investment options you have in the plan. Again, we appreciate the time you gave us today and look forward to meeting you again, hopefully in person next time. Thank you, Rob.
I agree with that. Thank you, Ray, and thank you, Rolla. And,
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, so yeah, Ray, if you and Rolla can
You want us to depart?
Yeah. Thank you.
Nope. You're welcome.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right, so that's regular business with ICMA, and then the next thing that I think I've talked. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was just making sure. Never mind.
Okay. So anyway, so the next part, I know I've talked to each of you over the past year about looking at our relationship with ICMA, what they're able to give to us, what we've done as a fiduciary here on this board versus what we maybe need to do moving forward. And so I've asked Mark Wohlheiser and Joe Warsicki from NBC Consulting to come talk to us today. And I'd like them to do a little bit of a presentation. And then if you guys have any questions, I don't know how Mark wants to do this, if you guys just want to jump in with questions or however it is. But this is Mark Wohlheiser. Go ahead, Mark Miller.
I apologize. I thought ICMA was still on. Okay. So what we're coming up to is part of this is the cost of the program and what it costs. And I've seen this presentation as a group of city managers. And since Rob has come in, he's identified that this is an issue to try to reduce the cost of ICMA, RC. And I'm not going to hold you to this, Rob, because I told Rob stories about it seems like every employee, when they retire, they take their funds out of ICMA, RC. And Rob said his goal is to make it such a good program that when you do retire, that you'll keep it there. That was the point I was trying to make. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, that's exactly what I want to do. And I think you'll hear Mark Wohlheiser today talk about a strategy to try not only if we were able to change our fund lineup and the cost structure, how to target people near retirement, et cetera. So when I say target, I mean that in a good way. Anyway, without further ado, I'll introduce Mark Wohlheiser to you guys. And Mark, the floor is yours. Go ahead, Mark. Get yourself off mute.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So I'm going to grab the screen here and set myself up.
We can see that. Yep.
I want you to know that next to tutoring my 14-year-old, that was the hardest thing I had to do this week. So, hi, everyone. My name is Mark Wohlheiser, and we represent MVC Investment Consulting in Plymouth, Michigan. We're one of the largest municipal Michigan defined contribution consulting firms in the state. We specialize in defined contribution plans. So you have taken a fiduciary responsibility to oversight your defined benefit plans and have hired a third-party consultant to assist you with that. It's really no different today in the defined contribution world. And we want to talk about your 401A and your 457 plans with ICMA today and give you a second opinion. We find that defined contribution plans are the most overlooked retirement plans in the industry. And the reason for that is these were startup plans 15 years ago. You had these small startup plans. In your defined benefit plan, you put together retirement systems, your pension board, so to speak, and hired consultants because it's your largest animal. It's a very large asset for you. But these plans have been overlooked. And most of them were set up in 2000, 2001 as a 457, or cost shifting took place in the 401A world. Well, 17 years later, these plans have grown, and you now have an opportunity here with fiduciary oversight of a plan that's almost $150 million as of last month. And we want to show you your expenses and benchmark those and kind of show you what's in the marketplace from a benchmarking standpoint. As I said, a lot of municipalities use startup 401A plans to shift costs on the defined contribution world and use 457 savings plans in the last 17, 18 years. Because of the fiduciary oversight and these plans are getting larger, wanted to share with you our client list. We were hired or retained on an ongoing basis by the City of Farmington Hills, the City of Rochester Hills. We just completed this project at City of Southfield. We worked on City of Warren and Brownstown Township. We now have 12 customers on a quarterly basis where we're very familiar with your ICMA funds. We know Ray and Rolla very well. We attend board meetings with them, and we come in as a consultant working as your advocate to try to help you do a couple things. And Mark Miller mentioned it in the beginning. Number one, reduce your cost with a wider variety of fund choices. So you don't just have ICMA Vantage Point funds. You get some Fidelity, you get some Janus funds, some Vanguard funds, Putnam, et cetera. And you get these outside funds at a lower cost. And we're going to show you your cost today and what's available in the marketplace. Before we do that, before we show you your cost, I want to share with you a piece from a law firm downtown who specializes in government 401A and pension plans. You've probably seen the Van Overbeck group at MAPERS, for those of you that have attended. I'm sure you're familiar with Michael's group, where it be Aaron Castle, Thomas Shaw, etc. They're the largest group, and you see them at MAPERS and at pension meetings on fiduciary responsibilities. And I just want to share with you fiduciary responsibilities and remind what you're doing today on the pension board as it encompasses in your defined contribution world. This comes across your 401A plans as well. What is a fiduciary? And the law encompassing fiduciary responsibilities is complex, but in one word, it's a trustee. And really, if you have a trustee role in a retirement program, you are a fiduciary under what act? Public Act 314 of 1965. And at the bottom, there's two ways to be a fiduciary. You can exercise any discretionary authority or control of the assets, which you're probably doing in conjunction with your consultants on your pension plan, or you can render investment advice for a fee or other direct compensation. We are fiduciaries to the plan on our defined contribution plans, similar to your consultants on your pension plan. This is a oversight service that we're deemed as a fiduciary. We sign on as a fiduciary in the same responsibility that you are. We share in that responsibility at the table with you. The next page talks about more fiduciary oversight. I won't bore you with this whole thing, but sections E, F, and G of the letter talk about a process. You have a process in place with your pension plan. The same process under Public Act 314 requirements under your 401A and your 457 to have an independent analysis, prepare and maintain written objectives, policies, and strategies on an independent basis, and maintain written objectives, policies, and monitoring your funds on an independent basis, having a monitoring system on the ICMA platform, benchmarking it to the market. We just heard a presentation. How do these funds stack up to the market? How are the fees? And within Public Act 314, they actually have a duty to fiduciaries, which would really be all of us on this call, that if a fund falls out of favor under Section E, you want to replace it. And so if funds fall out of favor, you feel you have a responsibility within the written process to make a change. And if funds fall out of favor, we have a duty to replace those funds. As we conclude the fiduciary portion, the bottom portion of Public Act 314 talks about you as fiduciaries are generally not liable for a breach of fiduciary duty if that duty has been successfully allocated to another fiduciary. This is the same role that you've taken on your pension plan, and it's no different on your defined contribution program. Again, most of them have been overlooked, so I think today you have an opportunity to increase oversight and improve the menu. Fiduciaries may also delegate responsibility with respect to the management or control of the plan assets only to another recognized fiduciary. Fiduciary liabilities who breach their responsibility shall be personally liable. If you've gone to the MAPERS meetings, you realize that there's some personal liability with the role of a fiduciary and trustee on your defined contribution plans, just like your pension plans. And in conclusion on fiduciary responsibilities, Public Act 314 says you want to put in an ongoing process. And that ongoing process is a quarterly process of monitoring the funds in a review on an independent basis. So we've talked enough about fiduciary responsibility, the same requirements on your pension plan. You guys are clearly doing a good job on an oversight. You have that same opportunity with your 401A and your 457 plan. So we've worked with the different cities in the area, and some of the results that we saw were pension boards and retirement systems started to implement in the last 10 years a strategy for defined contribution plans. They were able to put a strategy in place, hire a third-party consultant, and they received a wider variety of funds and improved lineup, substantially reduced participant costs, and I'm going to show you those opportunities today, but an ongoing process in place with an independent oversight, the duty to monitor investments, all accompanied with an employee education plan. Okay, thanks for your patience. We were able to obtain some data, and we took a look at all of your retirement plans with ICMA, and your costs are running about 71 basis points a year, or the participants are incurring $1 million in annual fees. Okay? How does this stack up to the marketplace? Here is a 75-page analysis that we did for a city across town in the last 9 months. And I want to compare that cost to what we see in the market. This is an example of some work that we did for a city across town. It took us about 9 months, and their total cost was 67 basis points. Yours is 71, very similar. During that process, we took the ICMA proposals, and they were also with T. Rowe Price. We brought in a third proposal. We went to the market, not a formal RFP, but a benchmarking of 3 proposals to bring in cost. And by using these 3 vendors, we were able to take the 67 basis points and almost cut the cost in half. If the vendor realizes, in this case, ICMA, that you may make a change, and maybe you do, maybe you don't, you have that choice, you start to see competitive pricing take place. And in this case, we're able to see the cost almost reduced in half from $500,000 to $300,000. The next case study, I think, is more appropriate for you. This was a plan on the east side that was paying almost $1.1 million in total fees, similar to the city of Troy. Their total costs were 83 basis points. They did have multiple vendors, but after 6 months of discovering, gathering data, and interviewing vendors, and working with ICMA, we were able to take their cost from 83 basis points down to 31 basis points in the end, from $1 million a year to $430,000. That's a savings of $500,000 per year to the participants in the plan, because an independent analysis was done benchmarking the plan to the market. I believe the city of Troy has similar numbers, and I believe you have the same opportunity to improve the fund lineup and reduce expenses. Finally, this is another plan that we did, and we see Empower Nationwide and ICMA almost on a daily basis. We work with all the vendors. This customer had 2 vendors. One was ICMA. Their total costs were about 1.02, and we were able to take those costs of $500,000 and reduce them all the way down to $100,000, but accepted a proposal at $243,000 a year, a savings of $250,000 per year on the plan. So benchmarking your plan, I think you have an opportunity to reduce cost in the market. But what is equally as important is the investment performance. You're all a committee, you're all trustees, you work with your consultant on the pension plan, and you see performance on a quarterly basis. So you're familiar with investment returns in the process. We took your funds and put it into our scoring system. It's a very generic scoring system. It's with a lot of detail, and the results are generic. And we use a 1 to 10 point scoring system. 9 and 10 is good, 7 and 8 not so good, 5 and 6 is on a watch list. And within the process, you create an investment policy statement and you start to put funds on a watch. If you're on a watch for 3 consecutive quarters, the committee has the opportunity to replace those funds, just like you're doing on your pension plan. Target date scores 1 to 10, different methodology. Asset allocation funds, 1 to 10, different methodology. You take your active funds, 1 to 10 scoring system. It's simple but very detailed. And finally, we also really spend a lot of time on indexing today. Index funds are very popular in defined contribution plans. a 1 to 10 point scoring system. Here are your funds through our scoring system. We see the ICMA lineup every quarter. Just spent the last 7 days analyzing ICMA funds for City of Warren, City of Farmington Hills, City of Southfield, and others. So we've seen these scores. Anything in a red is up for replacement. Anything in an orange is on a watch list. So my concern from an opportunity standpoint is your target funds. These funds that are Vantage Point 2020, 15, 30, 45, target funds today and risk-based funds are where we see most of the money flowing in this business. These funds are up for elimination. So I think you have an opportunity here to improve these funds, all at a cost of 62 to 69 basis points.
I have a
Today,
question.
what we're seeing, sure, go ahead.
If that's right. How do you compare this to like Vanguard target retirement funds, which usually have the cheapest expense? Like, how are your ratings on Vanguard or Fidelity target funds? Just curious. Maybe you'll get into that later, but I'm just curious how it differs, because those are the standard ones that people use in their personal account.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for asking that question, because it gave me a chance to breathe. Thanks. Excellent. That's right where I want to go. We just did this search for the city of Greenville, Michigan. Smaller community, but still. Same concept with ICMA. And we looked at Vanguard target funds, American Funds target funds, Fidelity Index funds, and BlackRock funds. Your point is those costs are 9, 10, 11, 12 basis points. Vanguard's at 14. Excellent fund family. Farmington Hills chose Vanguard funds. City of Warren chose BlackRock funds. We would help you look at all of those fund families, and there's no question we would help you settle on a BlackRock Vanguard type of approach, because these costs, and this is where the opportunity is, are running 62 to 67, 69 basis points. And as you know, Vanguard is 14. BlackRock is as low as 9. And we just helped Greenville select the Fidelity Index funds at 12. So I think you have a significant opportunity with these target funds. You can stay with ICMA if you choose to, just improve the fund line and just get sexier funds in the menu at a lower cost. Moving down the list, Fidelity Puritan is on a watch list. That's something you keep an eye on. It's improving. The Vantage Point long term should be replaced. MFS is a 10. That's a very good scoring fund. We could work with that. 3 more funds with 10s and 8s. And then the Invesco Oppenheimer Fund should be replaced. Vantage Point Growth should be replaced. And American Funds Growth Fund of America's on a watch list, but not a big concern with that one. Next page. There are more funds that should be replaced. Go ahead, Rob. Yep.
I had a conversation with Trustee Hamilton, and if you go back one slide, even though it says it's a good fund, it's the 500 fund, Vantage Point 500. If you look at the fees there, that's 19 basis points. And I think, Trustee Hamilton, at your work, you get it for what, 2 basis points?
1 basis point at Ford. Yeah, I work for Ford Motor Company.
Right.
Yeah, and so our S&P, Vanguard S&P large cap fund, which essentially follows S&P 500, it's 1 basis point.
So I know that Ford's going to have more assets to get a lower price, but what do you think, Mark? What could we get with the asset base that we have? What could we get the 500 for?
Excellent point. You have an indexed large cap blend, so popular today. You're paying 19 basis points. I just analyzed this fund for another city last night. We couldn't get Vanguard at 1. We could get Vanguard at 4, but we can get Fidelity at 1 and BlackRock at 2. So very similar. And the Vanguard fund at 4, all 3 of them. And so just a sexier fund, better track record, scores a 10 at a substantial lower cost. Excellent example of the opportunity that you have as the committee. And then you take $20 million at 1 basis points or 2 basis points versus 19, you can start to see the cost savings. That's just an example. So, want to put a process in place. I think everybody's already, with these examples, understanding where you can go. These vendors don't act as fiduciaries. They don't have the same skin in the game that we all do on this call. When you bring an oversight to the table as a committee and you're a fiduciary and you can be personally liable, you have a duty under Public Act 314. I'm talking about our firm itself to work with you to get you the best deal as an advocate and continue to monitor it each quarter because these funds fall out of favor. You know that you're doing your pension plan. The duty to monitor these funds ongoing, even after you've enhanced the menu, it is as frequently on a quarterly basis because funds will fall out of favor. So I think you have an opportunity in front of you. In conclusion, what we're seeing is, saw this with Farmington Hills, they had a pension board like yours, the plan's about the same size, independent consultant. We helped them form a defined contribution board with the external law firm the last 3 years. You guys probably have the empowerment to do that yourself. Have a defined contribution process in place where you monitor this just like your pension plan with defined contribution experts and hire a third party for a second look at what you have and benchmark this plan to the market. I think you have a great opportunity to improve this for your participants.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, does anyone from the board have any questions for Mark Wohlheiser?
Not from the board, but
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So obviously there's going to be a cost to have a consultant, and is it based on a percentage, or how is that? How is that all worked out?
Right. So I'm going to defer this to Mark Wohlheiser, but when I looked into this before, his consulting firm has through the Mitten system is a preferred vendor, and so going off of the Farmington Hills RFP, we can get, there was a minimum of 10 basis points or $50,000 a year. And when I first looked at that, I said, Mark, that's way too high for the amount of assets we had. And, we compared it to what we're paying in the DB world, which is 20 basis points for UBS and Morgan Stanley. And so in talking to Mark, we were able to get that much lower. And I don't know, Mark, do we want to talk about that yet or no?
Well, you have the opportunity through the Mitten that we have a procurement deal that we've agreed to at a minimum of 50,000 or 10 basis points to answer the basis point question. Obviously, the industry all wants to be incentivized to grow your plan with an asset-based fee. And yours will be lower than the 10 basis points. Probably around 6 basis points would be our offer because of the size of your plan. That would pay a nominal fee close to the 10 basis points in the procurement. So as long as you're a part of the Mitten, you get to participate in the same deal. And that's what others have done. Southfield just jumped on it. Greenville just jumped on it. So you have that opportunity.
Any other questions from the board at this point or anyone else on the call? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate your time. If you don't mind, if you could just hop off the call, I'd appreciate that. You as well, Joe.
You have Chairman Calise who's trying to get your attention, Rob. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Calise.
I just had a comment. Fees are important. Net return is more important than fees.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you look at our defined benefit plan, I think we've done extremely well. Fees are a little bit higher possibly than what you're talking about. But again, to me, it's net. And then the other thing is to educate the contributor, the employee. I find that a lot of these employees don't really understand investing, and they're either afraid to ask or they don't know what to ask, or some of the terminology that we use confuses them. So the training is extremely important, and the net return is as important as trading.
Chairman Calise, I just wanted to mention to you as well, just so you know, I've worked with Mark Wohlheiser at City of Warren in my previous job there. And while I was there, one of the other things that he was working on for me when I was there was working after people with high balances as well, improving the fund lineup, lowering the costs. So when Mark Miller had mentioned this earlier, so when they do retire, they want to keep their assets there because you know it and I know it. The more assets we have, the cheaper rates we get, cheaper costs we get. Excuse me. So Mark Wohlheiser's talked about doing additional education for everybody, but especially trying to get people near retirement and seeing the value that this plan could afford those participants.
Great. Thank you.
Mark, did you want to add anything on that?
I couldn't agree with Mark more. I think net fees are important. And what we're seeing, this is my 33rd year doing this. For the first time ever, these fees have come down so low that participants need to be educated, that you have an opportunity that when these fees end up in the 20, 30 basis point range total out the door, conservation increases substantially because there's no incentive to roll it to an IRA because the City of Troy's plan, the plan sponsored plan, is so competitive. You'll see your retention rates start to go up dramatically.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from anybody? All right, thank you. Mark and Joe, if you don't mind jumping off the call. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Goodbye.
So I guess, I don't know if anyone wants to talk about what we just heard. My personal opinion is I would like to move forward with the help of Lori to move forward with a contract with these guys to, hire them, implement what we have before us, improving the fund lineup, getting better costs, looking at better education to retain the people that are in the plan. Does anyone have any comments or thoughts? Kurt?
Just so I'm clear, this board's role in this decision is, obviously it's a contract that would be funded with city funds, not necessarily member funds here. So we're just advocating or supporting for this decision, and then it would go through the natural procurement process. Is that correct?
Right. So one of the things that I haven't, I don't know how much I've talked to Mark Miller about it, but I've talked to Lisa about it, is the fact that we have funds from ICMA that are, Lisa, is it a little bit over $170,000 or so? We have funds that are forfeited from participants that don't make their vesting. And so that's over a period of time. And so what I did in Warren was we had ICMA pay the consultant directly from those forfeited funds. And that was one model that I was thinking that we could use. And we would have at least 2 years worth of, 2, maybe 3 years worth of consultant fees paid for out of those forfeitures. Just an idea. Mark?
Yeah, Kurt, I just wanted to make sure that we're clear. This board does have a fiduciary responsibility over the ICMA-RC, and I'm not sure if you were saying they weren't.
Thanks, Mark. I understand and appreciate that. My question was more of the hiring of the consultant to oversee this fiduciary responsibility, what role the board has in making that decision, or, like I said, advocating or for supporting the decision, that then it would naturally go through the procurement process. But like Rob mentioned, if ICMA is paying for it, essentially, then it may not go through the traditional procurement process.
Well, to be clear, those forfeited funds go back to the city, so it is ultimately paid for by the city, at least the first couple years. And I mean, my personal opinion is I think it's a cost that the city should pay. The city ultimately pays for it on our DB side. The UBS fees and the Morgan Stanley fees are paid ultimately by the city as well through the board. So I don't know, Lori, do you have an opinion on that at all, or?
I'd like to, again, research it a little bit further because this is kind of an unusual situation. But obviously, if we've got it in Mitten, if this is a consultant that's in Mitten, it makes it a little bit easier, makes it streamlined for us as well. And I think the city could take advantage of it being through Mitten. And I think it's a great idea to use the money that's already saved up so far. That just makes perfect sense. And I think that it's absolutely an appropriate expenditure of those funds to spend them. Now, that won't be enough for all time and to have it go on beyond the second and third year. So we'll have to do something different at that point in time.
Chairman Cleese?
Rob, I have to admit, I've been on the board for quite some time. I did not realize that this came under our guidance. I thought it was always defined benefit. I didn't know we had that responsibility. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I think it should be addressed. And I'm glad it's being worked on. But again, I was not aware that we had any responsibility on that.
Go ahead, Lori.
Just to add to that, obviously now I think our DC numbers far exceed the DB numbers for what we have. And so there are going to be some changes that we should be making to Chapter 10. It is not as clear as we would like it to be. So that is also something that we're going to be coming to this board. And this is a perfect opportunity to kind of mingle this with potential changes to Chapter 10.
Go ahead, Mark.
Lori kind of hit what I was saying, is that we're starting to see the balance of employees being more and more in ICMA than defined benefit. In fact, how many people are in the plan now? Off the top of your head, Rob?
45 people are in the defined benefit plan left, I believe.
And then how many participants in ICMA? Probably at least 200, over 300, about 300.
Right.
Clearly, it's going to become the bigger majority of retirement benefits for our employees. Most of them are and will every day be almost exclusively ICMA eventually.
And to Chairman Cleese's point, the 7 of us, do have a fiduciary responsibility, and I think that's a very important part of this whole conversation too. For me also, I just really want to improve the fund lineup. I think that's number one. Number 2 is the cost, and I think we can do this all within this one project. I don't know. Does anyone want to, do we need a formal, is the board ready to discuss about potentially hiring this firm, or was there something else we wanted to talk about? Trustee Hamilton?
I mean, I support it. You know how I am. I want to reduce the cost as much as possible. That's my number one concern. So
okay.
I'm on board.
Trustee Gordon?
Could you just further define what we're talking about? We're saying forfeited, the forfeited money that would pay for this. Is that money that's been contributed to the system for people that have not met their vesting limits yet?
Correct. So that's city funds that didn't, right. Right. They didn't make their 5 years, and then it gets forfeited, and then you close out their account, and the match goes into this fund, and it sits at ICMA for a period of time.
Okay, I would support going in this direction.
Okay. All right. Does anyone want to make a formal motion then?
So I don't know that you need a formal motion at this point in time. A formal motion would absolutely come into play once we have an agreement, and that would be, I think, the next step. So I think that there's probably consensus. I'm looking at the nods, and I think that there's probably consensus. So I think that's probably the next step is to have city administration go and do the work and find out exactly what the details are for this arrangement and bring that back to the board for a formal resolution.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Lori. All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I hope that was informational and helpful today. And at that, I think this is it. Does anyone have any trustee comments before we conclude? Great. I can't wait to go down the DDA strip and get some lunch, guys. All right. Have a good day. And I guess
thanks everybody for participating electronically too. We really appreciate that you were all on time and all figured it out.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Bye now.